Is it on? Okay. Devin told me to film myself while Skyping him like this. I don't know why he's weird like that. I think it was the location thing he likes doing. I don't know. Anyway, so welcome to the Adventures in Odyssey.
Hey, Victoria, move over. Certainly. Hey everyone, this is Devin, aka Leonard Meltzner. And you're watching... Come on, Victoria. What?
What are you doing here?
I'm home for Thanksgiving. I flew in yesterday morning.
Oh yeah. Anyway.
And that was Victoria, and you've been watching the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. So today, we are going to be doing the second part of our Beginner's Guide to Odyssey video. For those of you who don't remember, the Beginner's Guide to Odyssey is a reference guide sort of video where we go through the basics of different characters, places, and aspects in Adventures in Odyssey as a sort of reference guide for people to, introduce them to the series. This one will be a little more spoilery than the first one, so you may want to beware with some mild spoilers related to different aspects of the Novacom saga, mostly.
Plus some things for the Blackgaard Saga.
Yeah, but mostly Novacom. I'm back, by the way, as you can tell. We're here.
Yay,
I'm
we're
home for
together.
Thanksgiving. Look at this.
Yeah.
It's like physically touching each other instead of like camera split screen thingy where it's like whoosh. We can't see each other.
I can't see. Okay. Hi.
Yes,
Peekaboo.
hello. I'm here. It's exciting.
Very happy.
So, let's see, what else? So yes, that's what the Beginner's Guide to Odyssey is. This is the second part of this series. The second episode of the Oddcast was the first one, but here we are now on episode whatever this is. I haven't edited the 13. Episode 13 we're on. I've been really behind on editing episodes, so it's kind of hard to keep track of where we are right now because of midterms and stuff. And I haven't had time to do everything because I'm not superhuman, unfortunately.
That'd be cool if you were, though.
For this episode, we are going to be covering over places in Adventures in Odyssey. We will be looking at different towns, such as Odyssey, Connellsville, Odenton, and Chicago. And when I say including, I mean that those four are all of the towns that we're covering. As well as different areas in Odyssey, different buildings and businesses, including McCallister Park and Wits End, and some different iconic areas inside of Wits End. Like I said, some of these will be slightly spoilery, mostly with reference to the Novacom saga, so if you haven't heard it yet and you're really anal about spoilers like I am, you may want to steer clear of this video. And if you already know these things, you may want to steer clear anyways, because like I said, this video is meant to be used as a reference guide and not as just general viewing, although that's what people did with the first part. Hey, if that's your sort of thing, knock yourself out. And what do everyone need to remember about this video for helpful navigation?
It is going to have a table of contents in the description down below. Go down,
yeah.
Go down.
And scroll back up.
Go back up.
Just like all of our videos do. Well, I mean, right now, as of this recording, only 3 of them do, because I've never actually gotten around to making any of the other ones yet.
Smooth.
But theoretically, I will one day. This will be an important one to do it, because it's one where you really want to jump to places and not just have to watch everything to find a particular entry in this little thingy. It's basically like a condensed AIOO wiki. So, I think that's everything we have to say beforehand. Without further ado, we shall get into it. Alright guys, Devin here with the second Beginner's Guide to Odyssey audio recording bit, focusing on places. It's just myself this time, in fact, contrary to what we just said, because Victoria is sick. So we're starting off with towns, and of course the most obvious town to begin with is Odyssey. The town of Odyssey is the main setting for Adventures in Odyssey, as one might easily guess. The town was established in the late 1700s in the Wayakatalaniti Valley, meaning land that stinks like swamp. It was founded by Horace McCallister, who inherited the land from his father. Horace and other local farmers dug irrigation ditches to drain the land and turn the valley into a small township. When Wolfgang and Bertha Gower came to stay, the key players for the town's creation were present. Horace named the town Odyssey, stating that it was a place that everybody ought to see. The town was a part of the Underground Railroad in the mid-1800s, and the church in town was the center of much activity and scandal. The building eventually became the Fillmore Recreation Center,
then later Wits End. The McCallister family stayed very dominant in the town, with many landmarks and buildings being named after them, including, most notably, McCallister Park, which was given to the city for municipal use by the family on the condition that it should always be used to glorify God. The town currently has a population of approximately 60,000-ish people and has a reputation for being very quaint and picturesque in an old-fashioned sort of way. The town has Trickle Lake nearby, Camp Odenton off a ways, and Force Mountain on the way to Connellsville, which is used for radio transmitters between the two towns. Mayor Perkins was the mayor of Odyssey when the series began, being followed by Bill Jenkins, Tom Riley, Margaret Fay, and currently Spencer Hicks. The town nearly won the Best Small Town in America competition by Home and Country magazine a few years back. Campbell County Community College is located in Odyssey and attracts students from far and wide to the small campus. The local newspaper is the Odyssey Times, although another smaller tabloid paper, the Odyssey Tattler, manages to survive. Odyssey, while a small and ostensibly quiet town, sees its fair share of action from egomaniacal villains to corrupt organizations. The most famous landmark of Odyssey is Wits End, Wits Ice Cream and Discovery Emporium on the edge of McCallister Park. Nearly everyone in town, young and old alike, have at least been in for ice cream, let alone those who are there more than at home. Most episodes of the show take place within the city limits, though there are more than plenty of episodes that take place abroad. Connellsville. Connellsville is the closest large town to Odyssey, and is often seen as the arrival town, the desert bluffs to Odyssey's Night Vale. Connellsville is a good couple hours' journey from Odyssey by car, with Odenton in between. Connellsville is also in Campbell County, along with Odyssey. Connellsville and Odyssey seem to be in constant competition in terms of town events and features, be it the size of a mall or bringing Acme Amalgamated in as a local business. Connellsville also has a large suburb called Oswald Heights, which is an extremely slummy area of town, with similar crime rates to large cities such as Chicago or New York. The Heights are ravaged by gang activities and poverty. Oswald Heights was very prominent during the Novacom saga, as there was a second Wits End being built there in conjunction with Mary's Story Shop. Odenton. Odenton is an extremely small township between Odyssey and Connellsville, though it isn't a part of Campbell County, strangely enough. The Mulligan family has their homestead in the valley, far enough outside of Odyssey that Lisa and Nick are in the Odenton school system instead of Odyssey's. Odenton isn't often mentioned, and its most significant part to play was in the Novacom saga, when Andromeda's Black Veil boxes were beta-tested in Odenton and resulted in the Odenton bug, fits of anger, violence, aggression, and restlessness. Chicago. While the town of Odyssey isn't in the same state as Chicago, it is very close nevertheless, and it's the most frequently visited town outside of Odyssey, even more so than Connellsville. The Universal Press Foundation, of which Witt is the chief stockholder and CEO, is headquartered in Chicago. Katrina and her family were from Chicago. Eugene was born in Chicago. Harlow Doyle moved to Odyssey from Chicago. Andromeda Enterprises was centered out of Chicago. Chicago has been visited in many, many episodes, and even more often, characters, especially Witt, will be out of town for the episode visiting there on business. Trickle Lake. Trickle Lake is the main water source for the town of Odyssey. It's upstream a ways from Tom Riley's farm, but it is a fairly good ride by bicycle, and has many tributaries leading both into and out of it. Tom's farm is irrigated by one of the streams, and Trickle Creek is the main source into it, where there is a water tubing enterprise. There is also a Trickle Falls fairly close to Camp Odenton, which suggests that the camp is further out in that same direction from the town. The lake has a water slide, one boat salesman, several docks, cabins, private areas, and more. It's very frequented by the citizens of the town. It's possible that the lake is also connected to Summit Lake, which is the highest lake from Odyssey. Camp Odenton. Camp Odenton is a kids' summer Bible camp run by Witt. It's a good distance outside of Odyssey, and is likely in the same direction out of town as Trickle Lake, as explained in the previous summary. The camp's name was formed from the letters W-A-T-A-N-T, the initials of the original native name for the valley in which Odyssey is situated, Wayakatalaniti. Activities at the camp include canoeing, archery, hiking, pottery, baseball, and more. The area is home to such wildlife as skunks, bears, deer, and wild horses. There's an old airtight air raid shelter from World War II which is close to the camp, underground, and is kept very secret. This is mostly for safety reasons, as the shelter automatically locks itself from the outside upon closing. Tom's Farm / the Timothy Center. Tom Riley's farm is a large apple orchard outside of Odyssey. Originally planted by Johnny Appleseed, the orchard was passed from Tom's father, Thomas Riley Sr., to him, and has nearly been lost many times over the years. The government very nearly built an interstate bypass through the middle of the land, and it was only prevented by the discovery that the cabin of Timmy, Tom's late son, was originally built by Johnny Appleseed, making it a historical landmark. Due to accidental arsenic contamination from the Edgebiter Chemical Company, Tom's farm faced many difficulties with the government, especially during his run for mayor. The Edgebiter issue also resurfaced later on, nearly costing Tom his position as mayor again. Eventually, God led Tom to build a family retreat center on his land called the Timothy Center, named after Timmy. He hired the Shepherd family to live and work there on the day of the opening, with Connie being Tom's assistant. The center came upon hard times at one point, leading Tom to lease part of his land to Novacom for their broadcasting tower, and the center became a fairly important part of the Novacom saga. Campbell County Community College. Several characters over the years have attended Campbell County Community College, or the 4 Cs, including most notably Eugene Meltzner. The college was founded by Josiah Campbell, a renowned ornithologist, after whom the county it's in is also named. The college has full 4-year degree programs and is somewhat known for its computer science program. The dean of the college for most of the run of the show was Dean Rogers, who was later replaced by Dean Martin. Teachers have included Dr. Trask, teaching art, Professor Marcus, who likely taught computer science, Professor Webster, teaching history, and Professor Crenshaw with antiquities. Gillespie has been on the security staff for years, with his being a regular staff member in Hold Up, and then was doing electronic security in Red Herring, trying to hack Aram. Other students over the years have included Connie Kendall, Penny Wise, Richard Maxwell, Nicholas Adamsworth, Marty Moskovich, and others. Eugene has been employed by the college in various ways over the years, and Richard and Katrina have also held positions there as counselor and librarian, respectively. Campbell College's computer department was the recipient of the grant from Andromeda for the radio wave study, which was one of the catalysts of the Novacom saga. The Odyssey Times. The Odyssey Times is Odyssey's primary newspaper. Dale Jacobs has been the editor-in-chief for almost the entire run of the show, but the ownership of the paper has changed hands many more times. Sometime just before the Novacom saga began, the Times were bought out by Andromeda or one of its sister or daughter corporations. This control was likely relinquished sometime after the episode Exit. In The Labyrinth, Dale and Anne were in London to meet with the new owners of the paper, and it was alluded to that the paper had changed hands many times. It was revealed just a few weeks ago that Bill Kendall, Connie's father, works for the company which currently owns the Times. Whether this is the same company mentioned in The Labyrinth or another owner since is unknown. The Times has played a prominent role in the show many times, from Dale searching down stories and mysteries to Lucy Cunningham Schultz frequently being loaned to the Times by the Odyssey Owl, Odyssey Middle School's paper, as a cub reporter. The Harlequin Dinner Theater. The Harlequin Dinner Theater was first introduced as it was changing hands of ownership from Mr. Flynn to Edwin Blackgaard. Edwin bought the theater as he and Shakespeare moved to Odyssey, completely unaware that his brother Regis had ever darkened the city's denizens with his presence. As a result of people's distrust of Edwin, being Regis's identical twin brother, people were very reluctant at first to attend the theater's productions, and business was abysmal. With time and trust, the citizens of Odyssey eventually began coming to the theater more, but it has still never had ease making ends meet, due to the difficulty of running an exclusively Shakespearean theater in such a small town, when all the shows are acted out by only one man. Edwin has tried many different advertising and publicity tactics to try and draw people to the theater over the years, but nothing has ever been entirely successful. Edwin nearly lost the theater many times due to financial difficulties and other misfortunes, but has always managed to hold on to it. Rathbones Electric Palace. Built on the site of what used to be Blackgaard's castle, and just around the corner from Rathbones' residence, and quite possibly very close to McCallister Park, from the opposite side as Wits End, is Rathbones Electric Palace. Funded by the Webster development firm, Bart built the palace to sell every conceivable electronic device for every conceivable need. From the beginning, in conjunction with Bart's personality and morality, the palace became synonymous to the town with lying, stealing, swindling, and cheating. Bart has used the store over the years to pull innumerable scans of many shapes and sizes. In that Dr. Blackgaard owned the Webster farm, after his death he bequeathed the store to Edwin, stating that Edwin must accept and retain possession of it, lest the trust fund to support the Blackgaard's mother be terminated. Edwin took ownership of the store, leaving Bart to manage it, though they have butted heads on several issues about the store over the years. Due to Bart's constant cheating and manipulating, the palace is nearly always at the center of some controversy in Odyssey. One of the only times that Bart threw a legitimate contest was that which sent the Barclays and the Rathbones to Hawaii. Hillingdale Haven. Not to be confused with the Campbell Rehabilitation Center, used for physical rehabilitation, Hillingdale Haven is Odyssey's mental health care facility. It resembles a lush resort, is fairly secluded outside of town, and is most prominent for being home to Tom's wife, Agnes, for most of the show's history. Agnes's being there first came to public light when Bart found out about it and, not fully understanding what he was doing, leaked the story to the Odyssey Tattler. Besides Agnes, Arthur Dent also stayed there during the final days of the Novacom saga. Dr. Jennings appears to be the main doctor there, and Mandy Strasberg used to volunteer there, visiting the patients and delivering medicine. Holsteins Books. Just around the corner from Wits End, Holsteins Books is a small bookshop run by Frederick Holstein. Holstein, likely a German immigrant, has many bizarre expressions and mistranslated idioms that add to the charm of his store. He hired Katrina Shanks as an assistant when she first lost her job as a librarian at the college, and she worked there off and on many times until she and Eugene became engaged. One of the most significant events surrounding the bookstore was its robbery and related kidnapping in The Perfect Witness. It's possible that Holstein's Books used to be a Christian bookstore, from which Donna Barclay purchased a book on prayer in And When You Pray. Eugene developed a book cataloging program through Campbell College for the bookstore, which earned him the first Holstein Computer Sciences grant, and that grant later became a permanent fixture at the college. J&J Antiques. Originally owned by Mr. Fay, then by Margaret Fay after his passing, Odyssey's antique shop was purchased by Jack and Joanne Allen after tumultuous negotiations involving emotional backlash from Whit and Margaret's relationship. J&J Antiques quickly became a success in Odyssey, particularly after Whit donated huge amounts of antiques and art from UPF, including an original masterpiece from Henri Lowe, Gleaning at Twilight. Connie helped out with cataloging antiques after the store first opened, stating that she may want to go on to study art, which is something Connie has finally begun pursuing 14 years of the show later. Eugene has also done programming to help the store, and PJ Manning was briefly hired to help with a particularly busy cataloging load. Jack and Joanne recently retired and moved to Scotland and have left the management of the store to Jason Whitaker. McCallister Park. Occupying a very decent portion of Odyssey's land, McCallister Park is a sprawling city park which has a rich and fascinating history, usually tied in closely with the building which is now Wits End. The town church sat on the edge of the land originally, with the rectory beside. There was a tunnel going from the basement of the rectory to the woods behind. Reverend Andrew Jameson built a second tunnel from the basement of the church to the rectory. The church burned down in 1850, and sometime between then and when it was rebuilt as the Fillmore Recreation Center, pre-1910, the land was donated to the city of Odyssey by the McCallister family. It was given for use as a park for the city on the condition that it would always be used for the glory of God, and that the land could never be sold. If the conditions couldn't be kept, the land would revert back to the McCallister family. During World War II, the town time capsule was reburied under the Fillmore, containing the deed for the park. The Fillmore Center eventually became Wits End. Witt tried to buy the building and land, but was only able to purchase the building due to the nature of the deed. When the full conditions of the deed became known, the city was forced to relinquish the land back to the McCallister family, as the government couldn't endorse using the land for religious purposes. The land was then resold by Eleanor McCallister to Witt. The park currently contains large woods, tables, and benches, at least one pond, Wits End, and its one remaining tunnel into the woods, a small maintenance road, and Kidsborough, the small town for children which Witt built in the woods for Ryan Cummings and his friends. The soil contains an extremely rare and powerful catalytic mineral, which has been the cause of much drama in Odyssey. The Electric Palace, City Hall, The houses of the Rathbones, the Strasburgs, the Washingtons, the Carpers, the Waltons, and Wooton Bassett all also seem to lie near the park. Wits End. The building which is currently Wits End has been around Odyssey for a very long time. Originally the town church, it had an adjoining rectory and a tunnel connecting the basement of the rectory to the woods behind the building, where McCallister Park would later be located. Reverend Andrew Jameson built a second tunnel from the basement of the rectory to the church. In late 1850 or early 1851, the rectory and most of the church were burned down. Only the tower and some of the structure remained. Sometime between then and 1910, Lyle Architects designed the Fillmore Recreation Center to be built into the ruins of the church. It was modeled after the Tate House on the edge of town, as a Victorian-style building would look better on the edge of the new McCallister Park than an institutional building. The town's only radio station ran out of the building from the 30s to the 50s. The center eventually shut down due to a lack of community funding. Jenny Whitaker, Witt's wife, died from the stress and illness she sustained trying to save the building from being bought out by the Webster development firm to be turned into a mall. The building was bought by the Universal Press Foundation for $3.5 million to create Wits End instead, beating out WDF's bid of only $3 million. Wits End has since become the most famous attraction in Odyssey and is known around the country and beyond. Some features of the building include the soda counter, the Bible room, the library, the little theater, the workshop, the control room, the room of consequence, the gallery, the attic, the inventor's corner, and more. It also has the largest train set in the county. New rooms, features, and inventions are constantly being added. Witt has had many employees over the years, including Jimmy, Connie Kendall, Eugene Meltzner, Aubrey Shepard, Nick Mulligan, Tom Riley, Bernard Walton, Katrina Shanks, Buck Oliver, and others. Although Wits End is primarily for kids, it's frequented by those of all ages. There's a spin-off Wits End in Connellsville, managed by Ed Washington. Witt doesn't make any money off of Wits End. Rather, it is paid for out of his earnings from his many other business endeavors. Wits End is the most main building, which is used as a location in Adventures in Odyssey, featuring in the majority of episodes. The Bible Room. The Bible Room is probably the most famous area of Wits End. Originally a storage room, Witt was inspired to create a place where he could allow the Bible to come to life for the kids, a place that it would be real to them. Thus the Bible Room was born. Upon first opening to the public, it contained models of Bible scenes, a Jericho with walls that would crash down when it was marched around 7 times, a talking mirror that would only illuminate when told a Bible verse, and that could recite verses when prompted, a full set of Paul's armor of God, and more. Eventually, many other displays would be added to the room, including the Environment Enhancer, which later became the Imagination Station, the Inspiration Station, the Transmuter, the Beavers, or Bible Educational Audiovisual Research System, the Gallery, and many others, including many other biblical displays. The room is on the second floor of Wits End, and is likely adjacent to Witt's office, as people can run from the control room to the Bible room in scant moments. The Bible room continues to morph and evolve as Witt comes up with new displays and inventions. The Little Theater. Originally an old auditorium, the Little Theater is used for many productions, both by Wits End and by the community. From illustrations of Wits End, the Little Theater seems to be the large greenhouse-like structure at the back. It was first used by Witt for his production of The Sower and the Seeds, which he wrote himself. Since then, it's been used frequently for many different productions. Mandy Strasberg has written a good number of plays that have been showcased there. It has also been used for variety shows, the annual Wits End Talent Competition, an impromptu court, and many other purposes. The Little Theater is on the first floor of Wits End. Witt's office / the control room. Located on the second floor of Wits End is Witt's office. The office isn't terribly large, but does have a decent-sized Bible library, as well as at least one general bookshelf. There's also a painting of a safe, behind which Witt keeps a real safe. For security reasons, Witt has his office equipped with a number of different hidden safety features. The secret computer room, or control room, is adjacent to the office. There is a key on the inside cover of The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis on Witt's bookshelf. When inserted into the keyhole on the wall beside the bookshelf, the wall slides back to reveal the room. The computers for the entire shop are housed here, as well as the monitors for all the security cameras. Witt is able to control everything in Wits End from this room. The computers are managed by a VI, a virtual intelligence, named Mabel, who was later copied over to the Imagination Station as well. The control room has been a particularly important room many, many times, especially in the Applesauce saga. The tunnels. The first tunnel under Wits End was built in the early 1800s when the building was the town church. The tunnel ran from the basement of the rectory into the woods behind the building that would eventually become McCallister Park. Later, Reverend Andrew Jameson, along with help from the natives, built a second tunnel from the basement of the rectory into the basement of the church. He used the tunnels as a part of the Underground Railroad. When the church burned down in 1850, the rectory church tunnel was covered by debris. Jack Allen later uncovered that second tunnel, and with its history, it became a historical landmark. The original tunnel was soon after collapsed in the explosion of a bomb in the basement. Damage to Wits End was minimal. The tunnels played many other roles over the years. Eventually, during a health and safety inspection, it was found that the damage from the bomb was increasing, and Wits End was closed until it could be repaired. Before the repairs were complete, however, another bomb was set off which seriously damaged the second tunnel, although it seems to be operational again now. The tunnel has facilitated the breaking in and breaking out of many characters over the years. What keeps the door over the exit in McCallister Park, which is kept locked, and the tunnel itself has motion sensors and a CCTV camera in the basement trained on where it enters the building.
Alright, everyone, we are back.
What was that?
It was
When
my...
you said you were starting an announcer voice, I thought you were like, okay, everyone.
That wasn't me doing the voice yet. I was just talking.
Oh.
I mean, I was doing sort of a voice, but that wasn't supposed to be.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. We're back from doing that now. So, thank you, Victoria. Hopefully you found that informative and not too spoilery in case there were things in there which might have otherwise spoiled you and your experience of certain sagas and listening types of activities.
I'm okay now.
That's good. So, looking on to next week, on a very special episode of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.
Oh my gosh.
What? Because that's what they always do for soap. That's the voice they do for soap opera.
You sound like you're trying to be like Kaiba as an announcer.
On a very special episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm rich. AKA every episode, ever.
I don't know, when he was an orphan, he wasn't rich.
So, next week we will be reviewing Life Expectancy, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. It's a very, very emotional episode.
Grab your Kleenex box.
If you haven't listened to it, listen to it right now, and then cry a lot, and try not to cry, and then cry more.
I did.
I didn't, but that's just because I'm an ice-cold, heartless person.
You're a horrible person.
I was very full of feels, though. My feels were exceeding.
He was fangirling in a sad way.
No. It was very sad.
I mean, he was upset.
Listen to it. Join us back here next week, or whatever the temporal relationship is between this episode and the next one. And we will see you then for a very long episode as we explore in depth this three-parter and pick it apart for the tragic and beautiful masterpiece that it is. From the wonderful and terrible mind of Mr. Paul McCusker.
I'm still kind of a little bit bitter, but it's bitter as in...
Bittersweet?
Yeah,
No.
Bittersweet.
Really.
Or not bittersweet.
Just bitter.
Sad, but I'm sad that it
But we'll get to
happened,
that next week.
But it's very good.
So, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Devin.
And he's here with me. I'm Victoria. And
this has been... We can say it in sync.
I know!
This has been The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. Yeah!
Yeah! Did I just hit you in the face? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did that on purpose. No!
So.
My wobbling thumb.
Didn't know my thumb could
do that. Look at my eye.
Oh, Brian Dern, we miss you.
That episode
Please
so
return,
much. Please.
Prime Brian Dern, Corey Burton.